AI is just coming onto the scenes. I mean, it's been around for actually about 50 years, and most people don't realize that AI has been around that long. But we're beginning to just see it take growth in education and actually have more meaningful application within day-to-day life. And this is something that really teachers and parents and students with disabilities would be beneficial in keeping an eye on.
I will say within the past 2 months, that's being written into IEPs that I'm seeing. It's being added for students with more significant levels of dyslexia or dysgraphia, and or they're already older in high school. And the case managers are saying, hey, parents, just FYI, I kind of let Bobby trial this AI chat GPT. Bobby had to input kind of the main idea and what he wanted to write about. And then here it is, right? It's so interesting, and it's hard for me to wrap my head around because it's not their words, it's their ideas. And then there's this essay or written response that's generated. But I have parents who are like, this is fantastic. He's just trying to graduate. He's just trying to get through school. He doesn't want to write in his career. So we don't really care. This is a great accommodation. And obviously I have parents who are like, this is cheating. We don't want this. We want to continue to push. So I think that's family and student specific because I can see both sides.
One of the things we keep hearing is the idea that the AI is going to help students cheat. First of all, if we're measuring student growth and understanding in only one way, then we're really kind of missing the boat on how to assess learning. That what we know is not every student is going to be able to express themselves through writing, for instance. And that's usually what we're getting, people are picking up on. Well, the AI can write for them. Okay, but if that's, again, the only way you're assessing a student's ability and knowledge and skills, then you're probably assessing it too narrowly. We have to really look at multiple ways in which we're assessing the learning process.
Like any technology tool, I see AI as something that needs to be considered second to the learning outcomes that for each individual student. So there are lots of ways in which AI can help support various learning outcomes for students with and without disabilities, right? So it really kind of starts with the teacher's intention.
This is a tool that kind of equalizes the field. And if our students do not learn how to use it, all of a sudden they're not having access to a tool that all the kids are using anyways. So I do think that that is something that is super important because we don't want our students to fall behind. We should make sure that they have the same tools to be competitive.
I think one of the things we're going to start seeing is the ability for students to have better access to an inclusive environments than they've ever had before. This is the abilities that AI can provide.
Maybe AI could create more inclusivity because rather than removing oneself to use speech to text, at least they can stay in the classroom because they're not looking different. Kids are very socially aware, and that's a really important piece. I think that's probably the most important piece, even more so than academics. We have to consider that and give them a voice too.
So a student with a disability in writing or reading might need an AI tool to help level the reading level of the text it's reading so that that student can be included with their gen ed peers, say in a chemistry class, right? Maybe they can't read the chemistry textbook because their dyslexia is so severe. But if the teacher can adapt the reading for that day by putting it into a chat bot and having it adjust the reading level, and then the teacher will have to evaluate to make sure that it's still teaching the same stuff, right? If that can enable the student to be included with their peers and learn more than being in a self-contained separate classroom, that's great. And it could also be used as an adaptive tool for people within that classroom to also simplify text so that they can understand it in a new way. They might be able to read the textbook, but they're not understanding all the big terms, right? So that you're using the chat GPT and the AI to adapt the text for everybody in the class, but for different reasons.
the other neat thing about ChatGPT that is kind of recent is you could put an image in ChatGPT and ChatGPT can read what's on that image. So you could take a picture of your child's, science homework, attach it to ChatGPT. ChatGPT can read all the, assignment and the different parts, and then you can give the AI tool the command or the prompt for it to rewrite the assignment, whatever you need to do to like change it for your child.
There's an AI out there that we were using recently that the AI was embedded in the book. So the book was there and the students could read the book, but then you can engage with the AI and ask the book itself you can ask the book questions about itself, right? So you could say, hey, I just read chapter 2, and I thought the main themes were the following. Would you agree or disagree with this? And the AI would then talk to the student about what was going on in chapter 2. So there's various ways that an AI can help in really any student. And I think students with dyslexia are going to have superpowers in many ways when using AI, because oftentimes, students with dyslexia they can see things very quickly and kind of bring relationships together very quickly. And I think empowering students, teaching students how to effectively use these AIs is going to be critical to the next generation of learners.
For example, if you taught a student, say they had a writing learning disability or an executive functioning issue where it's hard for them to organize their thoughts, right? You might have to teach a student how to enter the right prompt to get an outline for an essay. And then teach that student how to evaluate that outline. Like, is this really what you want to be writing about? Right? What is good? What isn't good? Like, teach them to be critical consumers of the tools that they're using, right? Now, of course, if the whole point of the lesson is to learn how to write an outline, you wouldn't want to do that. That's why it's so important to consider the learning outcome, right? I prepare teachers. One thing that a lot of my colleagues across the nation are doing right now is they're asking GPT or Magic AI, Magic School, I think that's the name of it, to create a lesson plan, right? And then they are printing out their lesson plan, looking at it and saying, okay, what about this lesson plan is good based on what I'm teaching you about what a good lesson plan is? And what would you change, right? Because you're the human, you're the teacher. And so we're teaching our future and current teachers to be critical as well. And then I think it's important for us to explicitly model for them, because they're both teachers and students in that space, right? That this is how you have to teach your students to critically analyze what they're asking the tool to do.
If you're a parent out there, one of the things we should be doing is empowering our students to use the AI in an effective way and to have conversations at home with our families, within our families, around what are the effective ways to use AI? What are the best ways to use it in supporting your own learning? And then what are some ethical or even some unethical sort of ways that we should avoid trying to do with AI? We want students to be as self-determined as they possibly can be, right? And so empowering them to critically think about the choices they're making as they're doing it, having their own self-agency in that process is critically important. It helps the students actually develop life skills that are going to be useful to them throughout the rest of their academic and adult life. And putting the human at the center of the decision versus the AI is critically important to do too.
What I'm trying to help parents do is use it as an advocacy tool. So one, before you go to IEP meetings, before you even ask for the draft IEP, I think you want to write down your parent input statements about your values, your vision for your child. And what some parents have done is then put that rough draft that they've written into an AI tool and have it rewrite it with, you can choose the tone, rewrite this with more of a diplomatic tone, or rewrite this with a more assertive tone. And chat will do that. And it's just so helpful. This is a prompt I wrote. So here I said, you are an experienced special education advocate and have a deep understanding of human psychology and how to help administrators have less resistance to change so students will be included in general ed. So I have 3 paragraphs there that define inclusion. And then we get down to the assignment. Please create a table that outlines parents' major issues when advocating for their child's education. And then I just click on this button and watch what happens. So it's going through writing resistance, what you might hear, what parents can say when they hear that resistance, and then based on your child's needs, the importance of inclusion. So I just think this is like so amazing. It can be your brainstorming friend. AI can help you discover new ideas you hadn't thought of.
First of all, I don't think teachers know enough to do that yet. And again, I prepare teachers, right? And this is no insult to teachers anywhere. So I really don't think that parents need to worry about that yet. I think as long as they communicate during those conversations with the humans involved, right? When you have humans at the table or over Zoom talking about what a child needs, as long as you are emphasizing the importance of teaching a child how to do something as much as possible on their own, and that's the center of your conversation, that's how you prevent the overuse of any technological tool.
You'd want to know which AI tools they're using at school, because if they've found it to be helpful at school, you also want to probably use it at home. So one way is to find out what they're using. You try it at home. You see if, like, is this really on target for what we need for my child? Or, you know, no, this isn't a good fit. And then, you know, looking at how often do you communicate with your child's team? Some parents meet, you know, for half an hour every month. That could be a time where you talk about it and say, you know, what are the benefits? Do you see my child's depending on it too much? Or, you know, so you can make some adjustments. So like everything, I think it's that ongoing communication.
How can parents ensure their students are learning? I think, like I said, I would do like comprehension checks and have them dictate, you know, whatever the topic of the, you know, written response or the essay is. Okay, tell me what you learned about as it relates to World War II, for example, or, you know, when you read this text, summarize it to me, to ensure that they're at least comprehending the information. I think that's probably the most important part.
One of the things that we need to think about as parents is identifying, you know, does my student have the needed accessibility? Are they gaining independence? Do they have the needed tools? And beyond those needed tools, then we need to make sure that students are actually continually showing growth in the learning process. If my son was continually coming home and saying, you know, I didn't really do anything today, you know, this was super simple, just as a parent normally would, you'd probably kind of question to say, oh, maybe we need to amp it up a little bit. But we don't really there's not really an official way at the moment, anyhow, to judge whether IEP team is using too much AI or not. But it's something that we're definitely going to be keeping an eye on.
One thing that's often overlooked is teaching children how to identify what they are interested in and finding other people who are also interested in those things. And it sounds so basic, right? But oftentimes I talk to students with disabilities and I'll say to them, what do you like to do? And even if they say video gaming, I'll say which one and why. So as a teacher, for example, you could have students generate like a poster or pictures as part of an icebreaker activity representing things that they're interested in. But then the human component would be actually talking to other people about their picture. and having them explain what it is. The AI is really a tool that's centering everybody.
The other thing we could do is you can imagine a student that really needs help in prompting how to engage in a situation that's really uncomfortable in a situation. And they can quickly ask an AI, hey, what are some ideas for socializing in such and such group? And the AI will give them some response. Now, whether that response is correct or not, that has to be kind of thought through a little bit by the person. But there's various ways in which AIs can help in that process. And I think, again, it's something that we don't fully understand yet because it's not been investigated at any large scale, but we know that it has ability out there to help students in the socialization process.
There are ways that you can put into ChatGPT, give me the steps for how to load a dishwasher. Give me the steps for how to wash my whites. And then you could take those steps and drop it into an image or a video generator and create a video model of it. All AI. I saw a colleague of mine do this for loading the dishwasher, and it had a narration.
Cups and glasses go up top. Set them at an angle so water doesn't pool on top. Let's make
I had never seen this before. It was like an English man narrating how to load the dishwasher. And it had like the Shutterfly, like watermarks and stuff all over it because it combed the internet for these images. So video modeling is a huge evidence-based practice for teaching students functional skills. If you could teach a teacher or a parent how to, say, make me a task analysis or instructions for how to make coffee, or, pour a bowl of cereal for myself, it will come up and generate that list for you. How to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? And then you, as a parent, can look at that list with your child and say, okay, does this make sense?
Obviously, algorithmic bias and fairness within the algorithms themselves. This is something that's been recognized and talked about within the AI industry for a long time. It's something that schools are just beginning to recognize. We need to make sure that these AI systems are transparent in the way they're making decisions, and we need to help them overcome these biases that are there. And then the basic sort of thing around ethics is ensuring that the AI systems that are built and adopted by schools are accessible.
The thing that really makes the difference when you're using AI tools is how much you tell AI about your child. And I warn parents, do not use your child's name. Don't use your name, the school's name, any identifying information, because what you put into AI is out there in the cloud or wherever.
I have heard conversations about using AI to do IEPs, right? And I think we need to be very careful with how we progress down that road. One suggestion would be, it would be wonderful if we could upload the family information that's given out at every IEP in a large paperclip document, like your procedural safeguards. If we could upload that to some sort of a chat bot, DOE, if you're listening, and then if teachers or family members have questions about the process, they can say, this is what happened. What are my options for next steps, right? That way you can have a chat box use those policies and procedures to give advice, right? Again, you'd have to have somebody at the back end checking to make sure that advice is legally accurate, right? And then, so there's the student data privacy concern, like with anything, right? I also think if there's any kind of AI that will record what's happening in a classroom for transcription, for example, for students, that also has to be looked at carefully to make sure it's not recording everything else that's going on.
We've covered quite a bit today. I think it's just something, I think parents by and large need to be aware of AI's presence and its ability to really support tremendous amount of learning for students with disabilities, and tremendous amount of independence and and accessibility for all students, but specifically students with disabilities. But it's just coming I want to reiterate that we are just in a new age of AI. And I think schools are trying to figure it out as society is trying to figure it out. And so I would really encourage parents to form some sort of collaboration or partnership with schools and talk with them about what are the appropriate uses of AI and how do they vision the future. Because I think this one of the things we need to kind of really kind of hone in on is supporting and educating students with disabilities should be a process of collaboration. And it's a collaboration between school professionals and parents and families. I mean, it's really that's how it was intended, and that's what we need to really focus on. And I think AI is going to be an important tool in that.